Technically, Earth declared war with a sandwich. Commander Silex of the Ylenth Coalition uttered the sentence like it hurt his vocal sac to say it aloud, his mandibles twitching as the recording played for the 100th time on the hologrid. There it was, the shaky footage from the Glarn expedition ship, orbiting what they had once labeled Sol 3. A bipedal hominid, likely male by their genetic reckoning, stood on what they now believed was the bridge of an orbital defense station, a structure barely held together by bolts and rust, bristling with more repurposed space junk than any known architecture in the civilized galaxy. The human wore mismatched fatigues, chewed something mid-transmission, and uttered the phrase that had made its way into half the sector's military doctrines. "If you send another probe over Kansas," the man had said, voice flat and hands free of weapons, "we'll shove a peanut butter and jelly sandwich into your engine core and call it performance art." Then he winked. He didn't smile. He winked. They had no idea what that meant. The Glarn lost 3 scouts the next day, 2 to kinetic projectiles the size of refrigerators, 1 to a microwave signal burst that somehow scrambled its navigation AI until it ejected its own reactor into deep space. No official war was declared. No official emissary responded. Earth didn't file with the Galactic Council, didn't acknowledge the triaccord of civilized skirmishes, didn't even return diplomatic pings. It just reacted. That was 17 cycles ago. Now the war councils, Vroth, Zelani, Marek, Ylenth, and the rest, held their summits in hardened bunkers carved into asteroids, orbiting dead moons, anywhere out of line of sight from Earth's solar system. The seat was always there, not a human in sight, never even a placeholder nameplate, just a rough chair made of whatever local scrap was available, positioned slightly to the side, and always left vacant. Not for respect, not for alliance, but for fear. "I still think we should vaporize the planet," said General Rorvik of the Merrick, his vocal spikes clacking with disdain. 17 cycles of silence? That's not strength, that's negligence. They don't belong in the council. They don't even answer the beacon protocols. "Try to vaporize it and see what happens," Silex replied, not with a threat, but a factual tone, like reminding someone that a knife is sharp. The Tireth tried. "Where are the Tireth now, Rorvik?" "Extinct," the Merrick said flatly. "They lost 6 systems in 3 days," Silex said, and waved a claw through the air to bring up the tactical simulation. The humans didn't even send ships. They rerouted one of their planetary orbital mining rigs through the Tireth sun. It wasn't a weapon, it was a mining rig. It was like watching a farmer slap a god with a rake. Counselor Varn of the Zelani let out a soft hiss, tapping on his translator node. The problem is, they do not act like a civilization. No communication structure, no fleet registry. Their ships are cobbled from debris and museum relics. Their strategies do not follow rational predictive algorithms. I cannot predict them, and that offends me. "They didn't care about protocol," muttered Rorvik. "They didn't even conquer. They just made it clear. We poke the Earth pokes back, but it doesn't poke the same way twice." The silence in the council chamber thickened, not from reverence, but because every species present had their own stories now. Stories of humans appearing uninvited in orbital meetings, of intercept transmissions rewritten into incomprehensible Earth humor, of probes returning infected with primitive Earth music that caused subharmonic interference in at least 3 quantum processors. There was no Earth embassy. There was no Earth army. There was just Earth. Unreachable, untouchable, and absolutely unpredictable. "Remember the Earlock siege?" Varn said slowly, as if repeating a bedtime story meant to keep children from tampering with ancient relics. "The humans didn't send a fleet. They sent a virus. Biological?" asked Rorvik. "Worse. Linguistic. They intercepted Earlock code language transmissions and responded with recursive sentences in what I believe they called legalese. Thousands of pages of non-compliance language riddled with references to interstellar trademarks, liability clauses, and cease and desist orders. The Earlock AI logic tree collapsed in on itself trying to decipher it. Their entire network core committed digital self-exile. They sued an entire species into oblivion, Silex muttered. With paperwork. No one laughed. And yet, Varn continued, they have not expanded. Not beyond Sol, not even within it. Their Mars installations are abandoned. Their orbital rings are patched with ductile steel. Their moon base, if it is a base, flickers in and out of passive scan range. They haven't built an empire. They haven't claimed a region. They just exist. Like a bear in a cave you don't walk past twice. Rorvek's claws flexed. That's not strength. That's insanity. Perhaps, Silex said, or perhaps that's the only way to survive the universe. We build navies. They build unpredictability. He looked at the empty chair. It was made from asteroid iron, fused with broken hull plating from an Arlax cruiser. It had no cushion, no armrests, just 4 jagged legs, and a backrest that listed to one side. No one ever touched it. No one ever cleaned it. It was a superstition now, part warning, part tradition. And deep down, none of them truly knew if the humans were still watching. But no one dared sit in that seat. The younger delegates never truly understood the fear. They called Earth a ghost planet, a myth that hardened veterans clung to like a childhood tale meant to justify cowardice. Some even mocked the empty chair, whispering that if humans truly were powerful, they would have taken that seat by now. They had no idea how many times Earth had been tested, and how each test ended not with battle cries or banners, but with absence. A species that didn't conquer or demand, didn't bark orders or broker terms. They simply taught the galaxy to stop trying. Counselor Grauv of the Olok sat forward now, his heavy armor plates creaking. I intercepted an unregistered signal from Sector 10. It's human, or it sounds human. No one moved, but tension crept into the chamber like frost. Even the autoscribes paused their ambient clicks. Source? Asked Silex. Planetless relay, Grauv replied. The signal's attached to a derelict freighter. All crew dead. No hull breaches, no signs of violence. Just shut down. But this keeps looping. He tapped his console and the room filled with noise. It was static at first, then a voice. Male, smooth, clipped, with that inflection Earthlings always had, like every sentence might be sarcasm. This is the UHS Somerville. If you're hearing this, congratulations. You found the warning beacon. Turn around, go home. This isn't a negotiation. This is us being polite. Static again. Then the same words repeating. There was no code to decrypt, no signature to trace. Just that calm, matter-of-fact threat wrapped in courtesy. It's a fake, muttered a minor delegate from the Thrixclade. Humans haven't launched vessels in over a century. That signal could be archival, or mimicry, or, Grauv raised a hand. The beacon's black-boxed in 5 dialect layers. No known civilization uses all 5 simultaneously. Except Earth. It's real. The room fell into a collective silence again, broken only by the soft flicker of the warning repeating in the air above them. Rorvek leaned back, claws rapping against his carapace. They haven't spoken in 17 cycles, and now they send a message that says, "What? Go away? That's it?" "They don't bluff," said Silex. "They do worse," Varn added. "They imply." The council chamber's lights dimmed slightly, an automatic response to rising energy output in the neural net that linked their translation systems. The humans' words were simple, but they made even the automated systems wary. "Has anyone attempted to respond?" asked a Ylinth tactician from the lower bench. "No," Grauv said, "and I won't. That's not a message you answer." Silex's gaze drifted to the vacant chair again. The last time someone tried to initiate dialogue, the Rith Consortium lost their entire communications fleet. Not destroyed, just gone. Systems wiped, records blanked, crews found drifting, dazed, incapable of even naming their own species. Earth hadn't fired a shot. They had simply disconnected them. Grauv continued. The freighter's coordinates place it near the old Vega drift line, border of pre-imperial zones, a place nobody visits anymore. But they sent it there for a reason. "You think it's bait?" Rorvek asked. "Number, it's a line in the dust," Grauv said. "A marker, don't cross." "Then we should cross it," Rorvek growled. "If we always yield to superstition, We stagnate. What if the humans have finally died out? What if the stories are just echoes? You'd bet 6 civilizations on that assumption, Silex asked calmly. I'd bet mine, Rorvek snapped. Silex rose slowly. Then go alone. Everyone turned toward him. You want to poke the earth? He said. Do it. Take your ships, see what you find. But don't bring council signatures. Don't carry our flags. And don't come back if you wake them up. Rorvek's stare held for several seconds longer than protocol allowed. Then he laughed, short, bitter, teeth flashing. You speak of them like gods. No, Silex replied. I speak of them like consequences. It wasn't a dramatic exit, but it felt like one when Rorvek left the chamber. Not storming, walking, as if the matter were settled. As if he hadn't just invited his own extinction. You're going to let him do it? Grauv asked after a long silence. I'm not his keeper, said Silex, and I'm not stopping a fool from learning the old way. He may trigger retaliation, only if Earth cares enough to respond. That was the hardest part. Earth didn't seem to care. They never moved offensively. They never claimed resources or demanded compensation. They only responded. The question was, how far did their patience stretch? Varn touched the edge of the empty seat with one finger, then quickly pulled back. Do you know why they always leave one chair empty in human courtrooms? He asked softly. The others looked at him. In case the defendant shows up. The seat remained where it always had. Crude, uncomfortable, waiting. The Merrick fleet launched with no fanfare, no formal declaration, no shared itinerary, just a silent departure from the Traxxas belt. 16 cruisers sliding into slip space like blades into cloth. Rorvek didn't wait for approval. He simply transmitted a brief message to the council. Exploring the Vega drift line, we'll return with evidence. No one expected a return, not a complete one. Within 2 rotations, fragments arrived. Not debris, data, encrypted, heavily fragmented bursts of Merrick war logs, shredded by something far beyond normal interference. Some of the recovered files weren't even recognizable as code. One council technician quit on the spot after reviewing a snippet of audio that consisted solely of human laughter, layered over Merrick tactical readouts. Another technician, normally unshakable, reported that the packet included a perfectly rendered 3-dimensional hologram of a Merrick war banner, folded into the shape of an origami crane. No one understood what an origami crane was, but the files kept coming. One image, distorted and static heavy, showed the bridge of Rorvek's flagship. The general stood at the center, expression unreadable. The crew around him moved in apparent panic, though no external threat could be seen. Then the feed cut to black and was replaced with a single phrase in white characters. This was your choice. Grauv reviewed it twice, then a third time. Each time the final frame changed slightly, words adjusting, letters rearranging, sometimes vanishing mid-sentence. The message refused to stabilize. Eventually he stopped trying. This isn't a weapon, he said at the next emergency gathering. It's something else. I don't think Earth believes in weapons the way we do. Varn nodded slowly. They don't assert power. They erase context. You don't get to die in battle against Earth. You just stop mattering. Silex ran one claw across the edge of his datapad. There's no pattern. They responded with sandwiches, paperwork, sarcasm, song, geometry. Every civilization that tries to define them fails. Maybe that's their goal. You can't fight what you can't categorize. It's worse than that, Grauv muttered. You can't even hate them properly. There's no vengeance if there's no clear offense. They do nothing, and it ruins everything. Silence fell again. The Merrick seat was empty. Rorvek's signature no longer appeared on council networks. His systems were wiped from existence. All that remained were fragments of confusion and folded warnings. Then 2 days later, the chair changed. It had been the same since its first appearance. Crude, scavenged, always different in detail but never in tone. This time, it had been rebuilt. Not dramatically, no lights, no declaration, but it was unmistakable. Someone had added a small cushion made of unknown fabric. It was clean. The bolts were real, and for the first time a symbol appeared on the backrest. a single circle with 3 diagonal lines cutting through it. The room froze. "Who did this?" Silex asked. No one answered. No logs, no sensors, no security breach. The structure's interior hadn't registered a single point of tampering. "Could it be a prank?" a junior tactician asked. "On that chair?" Grauv replied. "You'd sooner juggle plasma cores in a methane storm." Silex didn't look away from the symbol. "What does it mean?" Varn spoke quietly. "It's from their old signal headers. Terran Deep Web encryption markers. It means content redacted by user." "Redacted?" Grauv asked. "It's a polite way of saying, you were never meant to see this." The chamber sat with that thought for a long time. No one touched the chair. No one even walked near it. But the presence had changed. It was no longer a warning. It was now a placeholder. Earth hadn't responded to Rorvek's fleet with destruction or retaliation. They had simply acknowledged the gap he left behind. "You think they're building towards something?" asked a voice from the back, one of the new observers. "No," Silex said. "I think they already built it, and we keep trying to knock on the walls." "Then what do we do?" another delegate asked. Silex didn't answer immediately. He watched the chair, the symbol, the silence that followed Earth's every whisper. Then he spoke. "We do nothing, absolutely nothing. You want us to ignore them? I want us to survive." That wasn't peace. It wasn't fear. It was strategy. The war councils had learned this much. Earth didn't fight. Earth waited. And the moment you assumed they were gone, they answered. The chair remained untouched for 17 more cycles. Empires rose and fell. Coalitions dissolved and reformed. But the chair was always rebuilt, always placed. Even during the Shal Rebellion, when the outer systems burned with internal collapse, the Central War Council still gathered, and they still left one seat empty. Some of the newer species tried to omit it. One daring alliance between the Drax and the Vorn held an emergency summit without the seat. Within 3 days, their translators collapsed under a cascade of human origin memes that overloaded syntactical balance. None of it was targeted. No message was even sent. Just content. A single line of Earth origin code infiltrated the Drax military intranet and replaced every security protocol password with lyrics to an old Terran chant about a dancing baby. The Vorn fared worse. Their automated defense grid reclassified their own atmospheric filters as hostile. No one removed the chair again. Now, in the quiet black of the galactic midpoint station, an installation larger than most planets and more heavily protected than all 7 central systems, the War Council gathered once more. Not for battle, not for Rorvek, not even for Earth. This time, it was because the seat had changed again. It happened overnight. Grauv had arrived first and found the room humming, softly, low frequency, an energy signature not registered on any known chart. The chair wasn't metal this time. It wasn't scrap. It looked grown, smooth, seamless, bone-colored. Something between sculpture and utility. At its center rested an object no one wanted to touch. A cube. It hovered just above the seat. No projection, no emitter. It simply floated, waiting. Silex entered next. He stared at the cube for several minutes before saying anything. "It's not from us." Grauv nodded once. "I didn't call anyone else. I wanted you to see it before the others tried to vote." Silex approached the cube, but not too close. He studied its edges, its color, the fact that it didn't cast a shadow even though the chamber's light shone directly on it. "You think they're here?" "I think they've always been here," Grauv said, "and we're just catching up to the idea." More delegates arrived. The chamber filled. Silence held until the cube shifted. It didn't rise, it didn't spin. It simply changed. One moment, a perfect shape. Then the next, a chair. An Earth chair. Simple. Wood. 4 legs. No visible technology. Just a human-made seat like the ones recorded in Terran cultural archives. Grauv backed away. Silex did not. Instead, he stepped forward and addressed the room. "They're telling us something. They're mocking us," one delegate muttered. "No," Silex said. "Mocking would be louder." Then in the center of the room, a man appeared. No warning, no flare of light, just presence, human, male, clothed simply, no weapon, no rank, no insignia. He looked tired, not weak, but like someone who had seen more than any species should be able to recall. He took his place in the wooden chair, crossed one leg over the other, and looked around the room. "Seat's been empty a while," he said. No one moved, he continued. "You kept saving it. That's good. That means you're learning." Grav couldn't breathe. His secondary lungs stalled as his translator scrambled. The human's voice registered across every frequency at once, but remained perfectly comprehensible. "You've had questions. You've had theories. We've seen the curiosity. That's normal. That's healthy." Silex tried to speak, but the man raised a hand gently. Not a threat, a gesture. "We don't come to war councils because we don't like repeating ourselves. Not because we're angry, not because we're superior, but because we already fought those wars." He paused, gaze calm. "We didn't win them. No one wins them. But we survived them long enough to know they're the wrong conversation." Varn, voice dry, managed to ask, "Then what is the right conversation?" The man smiled. It wasn't condescending. It was something stranger. "You're having it." He stood. "We won't stay. We never stay. But you remembered the seat. That means maybe next time you won't need to build fleets first. Maybe next time, someone like you will build a chair instead." The chair faded. So did the man. The cube returned, this time flattened and dormant. Nothing else was said. And still, no coordinates were shared. No promises made. No treaties signed. The council didn't disband. They didn't declare peace. But from that moment forward, every council chamber, no matter the species, the war, the era, built one chair before any other decision was made. A chair for a species that never signed a pact, never attended a meeting, never fired the first shot. Because if they showed up again, it would be best to have a seat ready.